All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. Should I do this now? All right, I think I'm gonna start on my Christmas prediction videos. Oh man, 2026 prediction. Which is that I got guests up home. Well, my sister's up home, so that's why I don't want to be down here making videos of. But I came down here mainly to save my chocolates from the flying squirrels up home, and I gotta basically put it in the fridge to save it from Marvin down here. It's like, yeah, it's like yeah. Anyway, so 2026 predictions. I'm gonna start over again. I did it the other day, but I got way too ranty at the end of it, and it was almost 3 hours long. And I think what I might have to do is break these videos up. I was gonna write things down, uh, which I still can. I have that technology. Problem is because you keep going back over stuff, right? And there's no way to avoid that. But I'll start off with the main thing, the main crisis for next year of 2026, starting in about February. Well, it's already started. It's already started. And that is the food crisis. All the people, the problem we have is people just listen to partisans. My guy's good, your guy and can do no wrong, and your guy's bad, and that's it. And it's kind of not the way things are operating. So like people will tell you, okay, I found something bad on the guy I don't like, so they'll tell you that part, which will be correct and everything, but they won't tell you, okay, yeah, but he's doing this what I do like, right? And it's very hard right now for me to find anything positive that Trump is actually doing. I follow it closely. You guys know that. When he does good, I tell you he does good, but he's not done very well by his people in 2025. And I told you guys last year when Trump got elected that as good as he was in his first term, he wasn't perfect, but he was, again, if you were to measure him by all metrics, quality of life and wages and everything overall, the overall economy, he was the best president the United States has ever had, right? So what happened? I don't know. The guy's went completely 180, right? Now he's becoming one of the worst presidents that the United States has ever had, probably since the Great Depression, right? Donald Trump has made a massive miscalculation on these tariff war things. And I know there's still people that they're in the cheerleader thing and they believe the rhetoric and all that, but it's really no, it's not working. That's not how it works. Trump made a massive miscalculation, and I called it out right away. And that one thing is attacking the food supply via tariffs and whatever, and input costs for farmers is so ridiculous. I cannot find any positive data for farmers in the United States, pretty much anywhere. Now, up here, we got wins and losses and stuff like that. There's bad data here. But in the States, you have an average of 17,000 to 20,000 farms going under every year. This year is probably going to be a record year, or when the data comes in. And I think that's what a lot of holding the data back is about, is that it's so bad that it's going to terrify the shit out of everybody. But the people that are already critically thinking about this, not just on the partisan train, well, good, bad, whatever. Joe Biden was bad, therefore means Trump's good. No, Joe Biden was bad, but Trump's bad too. You know what I mean? But where he's miscalculated is with the farmers. I cannot find a single farmer that has done better than break even so far. I'm sure there's some, but I can find tons and tons of farmers that are either foreclosing or operating like almost 70 to 80% of the cattle. It was something, don't quote me on the percentage, but it was a really extremely high percentage of all cattle farmers and beef farmers are losing about $200 per head in losses. Okay, that you're talking billions of dollars of losses, right? The crop farmers, of the ones that actually, including like the Texas rice farmers, everybody's recording losses. An average of The soybean, everything like that. The average is everybody's losing an average of, if you take all the crops across the board, between $200 and $400 per acre. So almost every farm's like $250,000, $500,000 in debt. Some like a couple of $1 million in debt, depending on their acreage. That's pretty much every farm, 80-90% of the farms. And it comes down to the four big, giant agro processing plants and stuff like that, who set the price for the market, right? And because they're more concerned about the futures trades, in which futures contracts should not be allowed. Like the stock market is questionable whether it should be allowed or not, in my opinion. It's the ultimate usury, right? It's speculation. It's all speculation, right? And what they do is they promise a futures contract that you'll be able to sell wheat, farm grain, soy, corn, whatever, for a profit of this. This is what's projected. Now, how they manipulate it is they manipulate it on that side so that, let's say a farmer grows a crop of corn, and he needs to make, say, $11 a bushel, or sorry, $14 a bushel to, break even, okay? But he's only going to get, $7 to $11 a bushel. He's taking a massive loss. If beef and cattle are different, right? But if they have to make, say, like $2.70 a pound to break even, or $1.80 a pound, whatever it is, they might only be getting $1.40, $1.20, $1.10, or 97 cents a pound, something like that. So they're losing as well. And the thing is they can't adjust the price because the way, this is like all the people that complain about supply management, and I've talked about it. I said, yes, there's a lot of problems with supply management, but it's supply management is something we need. It's just, maybe we have to revamp it, whatever. Because if not, you can't let Wall Street dictate how much, farming is like razor thin profits to begin with. So with capitalism, you flood the market to make everything cheap, right? Which drives prices down. So there's no cap on how much, like the dairy farmers here in Quebec, they can only produce a quota, right? And if they produce too much, they have to waste it, the rest, or they pay. The idea is there's not a tariff, but like a tax on the quota, so that if you pay this much, you have to pay a kind of like a fine, so to speak, so that you don't go over the quota and flood the market, drop the prices down so much that it puts the farmers out of work. Well, the Americans do that, right? Because they're capitalists, right? Communism doesn't work. I know that. Just because I critique capitalism and problems of capitalism doesn't mean I support communism. People just have that, either or black and white thinking. It doesn't work like that. But you have to be able to, every business is the same. It's not just about supply and demand. You have to be able to operate for a profit, not cost, a profit. And the problem is all the input costs for farmers at every angle, whether it's buying farm equipment, whether it's the diesel, whether it's the potash, it doesn't matter. It all is gone up significantly, meaning most farms are spending an extra $40,000 to $100,000 of operational costs while the prices are at rock bottom for them to sell. And between the meat packing plants and the Wall Street, basically Wall Street is crippled the food supply. Again, the bankers have screwed us over again. You know what I mean? It's always them. It's always them. But that's what happened when your economy goes from a producer economy, business-oriented economy, an entrepreneur economy, to an investor class, stakeholder capitalist economy, right? Where it's just, well, I don't want to build anything. I just want to put money at it and, give me my dividends and returns, right? Well, what this has led to is catastrophic failure of the American farmer. There's no stopping it now. It's done, right? So I don't know what the crop yields are for a lot of people. I know like again, of all the things I talked about in previous videos, I won't go over it all, but things like the eastern seaboard farmers that were taken out by the storm last year, Hurricane Helene and stuff like that. All that, was, a dead start, a no start in 2025 to begin with. And then add the Trump tariff taxes, the trade war stuff where soybean farmers lost a lot of about 30% of their sale market, which means they probably had to, what they could sell, they probably had to sell even cheaper, flooding the domestic market to the point where like these farmers just made no money whatsoever. And again, farmers are committing suicide, all that stuff at record numbers just because they can't handle the loss, right? Generational farms just wiped out overnight because of stupid policies that have crippled them. Again, which is going to have consequences. And the consequences are going to be this. Food inflation is an absolute at this point. There's Trump talking about getting the beef prices down. No, they actually need to go up so the farmers can make money. But they can't go up because Wall Street's in the way. They can't go up because 4 giant agro packing plants set the buying price, right? It's like, no, we only want to buy it at this price, and there's no protection for the farmers, really, realistically. Oh, they're going to get bailouts. Look, people can't eat bailouts. People can't eat bailouts. This is that simple. To get a bailout, whatever's remaining of your crop, you have to destroy it. Typically, for most of these bailouts, same in Canada. I don't agree with that. I think you should have to sell whatever is producible, and then you can subsidize the rest, right? So I don't know what the crop yields were. I don't know how many farms closed up this year. At least 18 or 20,000 farms shorter than what there was last year. Yes, there was a record of bankruptcies of farms under Joe Biden, but Trump has not made that better. He's made it worse. And now with the potash, I remember a few years back on my manual life investing, I invested in the potash mines. I lost money on it in the beginning, but I'm sure it's probably made me a little bit of money, long term. But right now, one thing that U.S. suppliers and economists have come to the conclusion of, and I said this right from day one, that the United States again, if you think of the United States as a tumor grafted onto the Canadian tumor, our economies are so intertwined. I said right away that it was the thingamajiggy, the whatchamacallit, the doohickey, little like 97-cent bolt that's going to basically cripple an entire production line of something because you can't get it. Unobtainium is unobtainium, right? And I also said that the tariff war was going to have devastating effects to the U.S. economy. And we're now, like, it takes like months before you really see the damage, right? And Trump, like, again, the dumbest trade war in human history, unless his goal was to collapse the United States. And everybody looked at it the same way in the beginning. Oh, well, Canada's economy, we buy 50% of our trade, like our economy is hooked on 75% trade is our economy, right? But 50% of that is the United States, right? Now, everybody's like, Canada can't fight back because they'll destroy our economy overnight, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I said, no, they can't. They can't. It's the boomerang effect is almost every sector of the economy that we do trade with the United States is intermingled. You can't cut one off without cutting the other off. Doug Ford can't shut the power off to Michigan without cutting off power to Ontario. It's basically Siamese twin thing. You kill one, you kill both, right? And I tried to explain this to people in a way they would get it. That it's like, no, just because the United States buys more from us, okay, yes, if they were to cut everything off, yes, it would destroy the Canadian economy overnight. But probably 65% of that trade we can get from other people. So it'd be more of a disruption than a complete other collapse because of that. Now, of the manufacturing, there's probably about 10% manufacturing that we could build here instead of buy from the United States. So that brings up about 75%. What's that remaining 25% is stuff that we'll have to build ourselves, whatever. And then maybe out of that, maybe 15% is probably stuff, it's just unobtainium. We can't get it anywhere else but the United States. So it means, yes, our economy would take massive, massive hits. It'd be very devastating in the short term. First 3-4 years would be just absolutely devastating. But in doing so, it would kill that 2% trade that the United States does. And everybody just looks at the trade number, right? And they think that's the be all in it. That, oh, well, Canada's economy is just a rounding error to, we only do 2% trade in the States with Canada. It's a rounding error. And I'm like, no. If you're just going dollars and cents, okay, maybe that's correct. But no. In reality, no, not even. Canada is basically has the US, about 30 to 40% of the U.S. economy in a chokehold that most people are not going to figure out until they start starving to death in February with the food shortages because of the potash costs, right? If farmers, like Canada is like, has complete monopoly over U.S. fertilizer. There's no alternative, or there is alternative, but there's no easy alternative. Well, you can't get potash from Russia because you're going to war with them. You can't get potash from China because they're not going to sell it to you. And Venezuela, you can steal their potash, but they might blow up their mines. And even at that, Canada has like the largest, or one of the largest potash mines in the world, which supplies 80 to 90% of all U.S. farms. You can't replace that. It's unobtainium. It is a lopsided, and the Canadian speculators, they're like, yeah, no, go ahead, do like it's not costing us any extra. It's a tariff tax on the American people, right? And that's what it is. It's just a tax on the people. But the thing is it destroys your farming industry in the process. And whether Bill Gates buys up all the farmland or whatever, it doesn't matter. Once those farms shut down, that's food you just can't get. And you can mess around with a lot of things, but you can't mess around with your food supply. And Donald Trump has done that. And he's going to take a lot of heat for that. So around February, you're going to start to see the starvation rates and the food shortages. I can now confirm that, no, you guys did not produce quite enough food. So it's just all the food aid that was going to go to Africa and other third world nations are probably not going to go. So you're going to see massive starvation there globally. There's nothing we can do for them. They can't take care of, they can't feed themselves, right? And it's not being mean. It's just reality, because when it comes down to it, like, are they going to feed Americans? Or are they going to feed third worlders, right? And obviously, if they don't want a revolution in the country, they're going to have to feed Americans first. But it's a catch-22. Like, the 16-week rule plays in. Most crops take about 16 weeks. Cattle takes about 2 years, 2 to 3 years before it's marketable. You know, you got a calf, got to let it grow. There's a lot of investment there. And the U.S. cattle herds are down by a lot. The Canadian cattle herds in this trade war have actually grown by 0.08%, which is the highest growth we've seen in cattle in Canada. But again, all the tariffs against the potash has raised the costs in the States, and basically on top of just regular inflation going up, basically potash mines in Canada, in Saskatchewan, are doing well. This is what a lot of the Venezuela war is going to be about, which I'll talk about Venezuela. When Trump goes into Venezuela, it's almost a done deal now. They're already, like the U.S. Navy is now a pirate. It does piracy, right? It's stealing freighters. So Trump lied. Oh, we have to go after Venezuela for the drug dealers, right? And do piracy that way. Just start blowing boats out of the water and call them drug dealers. And then when the guys are there clinging to their boat for life, sinking boat, you go back and finish them off with a U.S. destroyer, right? While they're unarmed men in the water who we don't even know who they were, if there was even drugs on the boats. It's a speedboat. It's a drug boat. Maybe there was. What drugs were on there? We don't know. Who are the names of the people you killed? Don't know. So how do you know you killed drug dealers? You know what I mean? Like, it's a complete as complete piracy at sea. Like that naval captain should face the firing squad for that. That's crimes against humanity, is what it is. Now, capture them, arrest them, seize evidence, day in court. I'm on board with that, but you got to do that. You can't just kill people. So what? So then it turns to, well, it's not about the drug dealers. It's about the oil and the potash and stuff that Venezuela has. So you have to understand it's working out exactly as I said it was going to work out. The idea is to seize Venezuela, steal their resources, because according to Trump, they've stole U.S. assets. They stole land. They're going to take U.S. land back in Venezuela. I thought Venezuela was a sovereign country, but apparently, according to Donald Trump, it's not, right? We're just going to take the oil because they nationalized their oil and whatever. No lawsuits or anything like that. But no, the Venezuelans, they said, no, we're going to nationalize our oil, right? So, I don't know how the invasion is going to go. If they try just airstrikes, it's not going to work. They have to put boots on the ground. But the Venezuelans are going to pull out a surprise the U.S. Navy is not ready for. And this is one of my predictions, is you're about to lose probably half of a carrier or all of a carrier fleet in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to find out that the Houthis, the Iranians, the Russians, and the Chinese and the North Koreans have been helping the Venezuelans with anti-shipping technology. And I think the Houthis are going to actually, we're going to see a connection between the Houthi anti-shipping missiles and Venezuela. And the U.S. is going to lose one of its, one of its prize fleet, stuff, right? And Americans are not going to be ready for that kind of a death toll of like a carrier going to the ground, 5,000 people to 8,000 people in one night, like in 15 minutes going to the bottom of the ocean. They're just not going to be ready for that. The anti-war protests are going to be huge this year. But the idea that Trump has is basically, and his administration, is steal the oil, which is the oil in Venezuela is the same thing that's in Alberta, right? So all these 50 First Staters in Alberta, they're gonna become hardcore nationalist Canadians. But, still, like, I'm not saying the sovereignty movement in Alberta is going to go away, but it's going to die off because they're going to find out that what the deal is if they can get the oil from Venezuela, they'll just cut off Alberta to destroy the Albertan economy. But basically, it's to destroy Canada. That's Trump's goal, is to destroy Canada. All the pro-MAGA people, all the Maple MAGA people, all those people by probably June, July, there's going to be no doubt that, no, Trump, you can't make a deal with him. It's not Carney's fault. Carney's already got the paperwork sitting there for Kuzma or whatever, and here, this is what we want to negotiate. And it's ready to go. And Carney said it himself. He goes, well, whenever they're ready, we've got the paperwork ready to go. We'll sit down, we'll hash this out, right? So the Canadian side, is going to be more of, cross the T's, dot the I's, and the Trump side's just all rhetoric, and then people are going to realize, well, you can't make a deal with it. This is why, so all the conservatives that are like, well, Carney's just, everybody else can get a deal from Trump, why can't we get a deal? Because there's no deal to be made, like I said. Trump does not want to make a deal with Canada, he wants to take it over. There's going to be an incident in Greenland with Americans versus Greenlanders. It's already started, but you're going to see some sort of a military... Greenland and the Netherlands are probably going to ask the Americans to leave the country over it. I don't know if U.S. soldiers are going to kill Greenlanders. It'll be some sort of a fisticuff thing between U.S. soldiers and Greenlanders. They're not going to be welcomed anywhere in the towns and stuff like that, just because of the rhetoric, right? That's probably already happening. If you're from Greenland, fill us in. But there's, like the MAGA people aren't in Greenland. It's like, a bunch of Inuit that they paid to wear hats and stuff. That's not real. It's not real. Greenlanders are very, very proud. Even if they're a small amount of people, they're very, very proud of their... Yeah, they don't want to be a part of the 51st state. What you're going to see a beefing up of the Nordic alliance over this, meaning, Canada, Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Kingdom of Denmark. Probably Iceland's going to jump in on it. Norway, all the Nordic alliance between Canada and the northern Arctic Circle people basically is already a thing, and it's we're building icebreakers. You are going to see a head-to-head over the Northwest Passage. The United States is going to try to assert U.S. dominance there, putting carrier fleets or whatever warships through there. There's going to be an incident. The incident is going to be very embarrassing for the United States. They're going to find out that destroyers don't make good icebreakers. And they're probably going to miscalculate. And Canada is going to have to go save one of their destroyers in the pack ice. It's going to be pretty bizarre. But it's going to be Trump ordering them to go up like into the Arctic way too early or something stupid like that. But we're gonna, Canada is really going to beef up the Northwest Passage because it understands that the Venezuela thing. Getting back to that really quick, it's going to coincide with about around February when the food shortages are hitting the U.S. So extreme food inflation, actual shortages on the shelves, food riots, and light starvation. I said in 2020 that in 2 to 4 years, you're going to see about 2 to 4 billion people starve to death. It reached about 2 billion globally of people starving to death. But from this, you're about to see 4 to 6 billion people starve, about half the planet, starting to starve to death by the end of 2026. It's going to be brutal. And I mean like real famines where people are like the Ethiopian famines in the 90s, like that bad, but everywhere, including some places in the West. Food banks are going to run dry everywhere. There's going to be just like no food banks. They're going to be food banks, but there's going to be no food. Because people won't even be able to donate because it's like, wow, there's this much food on the shelf, much like the Soviet Union. You get your 2 minutes in the aisle, you're going to follow the arrows, and there will be guards there making you follow the food line arrows. It's going to be very, very terrible. It's going to be an eye-opening experience between 2026 and 2027 for Westerners. Real extreme food shortages. But again, using Venezuela to destroy Canada's potash and gas and oil to collapse Canada in order to get the 51st state stuff. It's not going to work. It's going to be very disruptive. Everybody's going to be, it's Carney's fault, whatever. But Carney's going to pull a fast one on Trump because he's going to utilize that to get a whole bunch of things done that the liberals that voted for Carney, you have to understand, they're so pissed at Carney. Even the CBC is attacking him. And they advocated for him. It's like, you're... like Carney's doing things that I don't like, but he's also doing a lot of things that I do like. I'm not supposed to say that. I'm a conservative. No, I'm a conservative. That's why I like what he's doing, in certain areas. Now, a lot of stuff, the dumb stuff, the woke stuff, the gun buyback, all that stuff, I think he's just going to kick that can down the road and eventually find a way to get rid of that called Polytechnique, Coalition for Gun Control 2.0. I forget what they're calling themselves now these days. To try to find it, sever that tie. He's already done 2 purges of radicals out of the Liberal cabinet. The third one will be a mask off, and it'll probably be either just before or just after Parliament rests for summer. He's going to do the NGO purge, where it's like, okay, well, if we want shit built, and this is Carney's own words, we have to build stuff if we want. He's still going to go with the green agenda. That's the carbon capture thing, and I'm kind of neutral on that. You're going to see a strange thing in conservatives in Canada, where they're going to, get past the rhetoric a bit more, because right now you have to look at the details and the fine print. What's going to happen is they're going to be more supportive of a green economy. It's going to be the weirdest thing. It doesn't mean we're on board with the climate change thing, but they're going to see what the carbon capture is, what the technology is, and so that, and we're gonna be world leaders in that. In fact, it's going to be a massive make work project for Canada. The question is will the deficit? Are we going to go over the deficit? Right now, from what I'm looking at, it looks like we're going to be under that $78 billion deficit that Carney's proposed. I think what he did is he doubled what he thought he would need, just to play it safe. So if it goes over, let's say he wanted to only go over by, say, $45 billion, which is too much. But you might go over say like 62 billion, and then oh look at that, well we came in way under budget. It's not a balanced budget, but we came in under budget. People go, oh wow, great job. Meanwhile, he's just a slimy snake that just knows how to, how to keep himself safe, right? But we're probably going to see a massive uprising of Canadians asking for independent pipelines, particularly Line 5 and Line 9, and more independence from the United States in a faster way. The other thing that we're going to see up here in Canada, it's already started, but right now Canada's deporting, the states are deporting about 300 people per day. It's not enough, right? But credit where credit's due. At least Donald Trump is deporting more people than just about anybody else, right? So he's done that, and he's kind of locked down the borders, which are going to stay locked down for 2026. But what you're going to see is a weird anomaly of people trying to escape. Like Mexico's going to have people flooding into it. Canada, we're going to have people flooding in, trying to escape the United States for whatever. But Canada is now deporting about 400 people per day, which the CBC is up in arms about this. Oh my God, our population has shrunk by 78,000 people, which is we still have way too many. So Carney, what he's trying to do is do things quietly, so that his liberal base doesn't freak out, right? Because they're going to be like, oh my God, he's a freaking conservative. He's not. He's just the 90s centrist liberals, and he's basically an accountant, right? So he knows we can't sustain it. So the trend is going to be hopefully seeing the mass immigration thing come to a stop. The foreign worker thing is still a thing. It's going to be a thing. But when we start adding up the numbers of people coming and going and who's actually here, what we're going to see is an actual decline in the Canadian populace. Not fast enough for my liking, but a step in the right direction. This is going to take a little bit of alleviation off the homes and stuff like that. But there's still going to be crisis. Again, Canada's in the everything crisis. The United States is in the everything crisis. However, the Canadian economy is chugging along like a bouncing ball, more positive than negative. The United States will no doubtably be in a recession by the end of, it's already in a recession, but it's going to be in a really harsh recession by the end of 2026. The chickens are going to come home to roost, right? Hence why Trump is lashing out in all directions, and the Trump administration, because they don't know what to do about it. And free market capitalism isn't fixing the problems. All the 90 deals in 90 days, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. You're going to see a lot of investment, more leaving the United States. You're going to see the largest layoff you've ever seen in the United States. It's already happening, but it's going to really quicken. It's going to have devastating effects up here in Canada, but you're going to see the complete collapse of tourism. Without a doubt, there's going to be a complete collapse of tourism in the United States. It's already happening, again, it's going to be a global boycott of the United States. And even the people that want to go to the United States to visit family and stuff are going to have a hard time because of all the new border restrictions and stuff like that. People are just going to be too scared to go, right? Even if they want to. So the attack on the Canadian economy from the States is going to be really brutal this year. It's going to hit us hard. We're going to take lots of job losses, but we're going to divert enough trade to kind of balance that out the way we've been doing. We're going to see Canada start to, become the role model economy in the world. And it's going to start to be more like a Nordic alliance economy. We're going to move closer to the European Union. If we want to do business with them, it's what we have to do. Canada's already getting amazing deals to get into the European Union, right? It was going to cost the Brits something like $200 billion to get in, to do trade in the, European Union, to buy back in membership again. It was a ridiculous number. We just got in for $6.5 billion, the lowest of all the European unions, all the people, the 28 nations that are in there or whatever. It was Canada was oh, yeah, well, we'll lower the entry fee because they need our resources, right? So Canada is going to become a very, very industrious in mining and stuff like that to the point where we're going to be continuing to steal out business, even if we're more expensive. People are going to do business with us rather than the States, just because of the volatility of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to threaten a lot of war, and he is going to make good on a lot of war. Particularly with Venezuela, there's going to be Iran 2.0. The Iranians are going to hit the Israelis extremely, extremely hard this time around, and probably start killing some U.S. soldiers, be it destroying like parts of the U.S. Navy. The Iranians are going to show, hey, we're not fucking around anymore. And the U.S. public is going to realize that we can't take Iran. It's Iwo Jima, like I said, Iwo Jima 2.0 with cruise missiles. Like, good luck. You know what I mean? And it's going to show a very big weakening of U.S. influence around the world. It's going to be a strange thing for a lot of Americans to come to realize that you can't just use air power to take over countries like you did in Iraq and stuff like that. It's not going to work anymore because the air defense systems are too good now. You're going to see B-2 bombers shot down, F-35 shot down, and you're probably going to lose the U.S. Gerald-Ford aircraft carrier. If not in 2026, in 2027. It depends. It's basically going to be up to the Iranians and the Venezuelans of how much shipping gets destroyed. The war in Ukraine and Russia. Okay, guys. You guys know what I've been saying. The Ukrainians are losing. We all know this. I don't know if it happens in 2026, but Ukraine is going to purge the system. Zelensky probably will not survive the year, most likely. If not, he's going to be exiled like Napoleon, probably to Israel. And it will be the Ukrainian people getting rid of that administration. So you're going to see a Maidan coup 2.0, only this time it's going to purge the U.S. system. The Iranians are going to go rogue. Now, when they do, a really strange thing is going to happen. The Ukrainians are going to be like that far from losing everything, right? Russia's going to go full tilt, whatever. But I don't know how they're going to do it yet. But the indicators are, and this is, again, I don't believe it myself. We'll see. But if the indicators are right, the Ukrainians are going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And they're not only going to, they're not going to take back all the territory from Russia, but they're going to stop the Russians brutally in their own tracks. But they're going to, believe it or not, take Russian territory. Not very much of it, but they're going to take some of it. And it's going to be such a strategic point that they're going to take, and they're going to be able to actually hold it, that it will force the Ukrainians and the Russians into serious talks. I'm not saying there's going to be the end of the war. I hope there is, but I don't think it ends in 2026. It'll end in 2028 or 2029, I think, is where it's going to end. The Russians, they'll be able to endure the attacks, but they won't be able to endure the, I don't want to say propaganda, but the momentum of support from the Russian people. And people are going to say, okay, enough's enough. You know, I don't know how the Ukrainians are going to do this, but they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's going to be so bizarre. Trump will try to take, if Trump is still alive, he'll probably try to take credit for it, but I don't think he'll be alive at this time. Which brings me to another huge, guys, look, I'm not saying this stuff because I want to say this stuff. I'm saying this stuff because this is what the indicators are telling me. This is what, when you look at the big picture, 2 + 2 always equaling 4, connecting the dots. But Trump is probably not going to survive. He's dead by next December. I believe he's going to be assassinated. I don't know exactly if it's going to be 2026 or 2027, but there's going to be another massive attempt, and it's going to be on the hardships of the economy. It will be a Trump supporter that kills him. It will, like the last prediction I made, that there would be a U.S. veteran that would attempt to kill him or kill him. It was a Democrat guy, but that was the last guy. We heard about the guy before that because he actually got shots off. But the other guy, he was foiled. That said, terrorist attacks, again, we're in the Black Christmas. There's all kinds of like terrorist attacks and stuff like that being foiled as we speak. That's just going to double down this year, next year. Like, you know, they're always a Muslim attacks. You've already seen the Black Christmas one in Australia, but that's a part of a bigger thing that I talked about of assassinations and 110th explanation of the Jews and the 10th Crusade stuff. It plays into that. Again, not that I call for it, but people think that, okay, no, it's just another Mossad false flag. It's not a Mossad false flag. What it is it is a targeted attacks against Chabad Lubavitch, which are the biggest Zionists that are keeping the Israeli-Gazan war going on, right? And this is going to go global. So yes, Jews are going to be attacked everywhere they go this year, which is going to be on the cusps of an extreme radical data center AI thing, which people are going to come to the realizing what these data centers are all about. That's what the Internet of Things is about. It's what the social credit score system is going to be about. Basically, for example, everybody's going to be issued a digital ID under Trump, and or the next successor. And what the data centers are going to do is basically they're going to monitor from cradle to grave everything you do. So let's say you go out and you buy a book like this, but they deem this book right wing. Well, your social credit score will go down by 2 points. Let's say you drank too many of these this month. Your social credit score will go down by like a half point or whatever. You'll get so much, and if you lose too many social credit points, at one point you won't be able to drive. At one point you won't be able to take city buses. You won't be able to use Ubers or cabs. You won't be able to go to restaurants or super malls. That's about 10 years down the road, but the start of it starts now. That's what these data centers are about. The data centers it's going to really make it obvious that there's no profit to be made there. They're going to, all the money that's made building these data centers, which are going up everywhere, including here in Canada. Microsoft is building them in Canada. So Bill Gates, has the monopoly there, right, on these data centers. But the thing is people are they're going to reject it, right? So you're going to see a really weird thing hitting the internet. Mass extreme censorship through these data centers on behalf of Jewish groups, of course, because of all these attacks that are going to be taking place against Jews from vigilante justice. What I called last year was, guys, and look, a month before Charlie Kirk was dead, I said, look, these hellhounds are going to come out, and these Hydra are going to come out. And I've always put the Hydra as people that attack the general public, school shooters, mass shooters like that. And the Hydra as people who attack the system, people who shoot judges, lawyers, politicians, whatever, assassins, basically. 007s, kind of type of stuff, right? We're going to see that to the extreme. You're going to see people in the Trump administration getting knocked off. You're going to see people on the Democrat side getting knocked off. That's going to be, there's going to be too much to follow there. So the assassinations have been going up steadily since 2019. No change there. And we're going to see more prominent. You're going to see like a month before TPUSA was attacked, I specifically said that when these Hydra come out or Hellhounds come out, they're going to start to attack the media people, judges, lawyers, newscasters, reporters, journalists, whatever. Mostly it's going to be left-wing, Hydra or Hellhounds coming out to kill right-wingers. That's going to be the trend, but it's going to go both ways. And the reason being is because we have no rule of law, right? People are seeing, you're going to see in the UK prominent left-wing judges most likely being executed for treason. Pitchfork revolution style. All these migrants that get let go and then they're gonna overplay the hand of putting people in jail for hate speech to a degree where it's going to be really, really, people have had enough, right? The Irish Revolution is going to spike up once again. Um, the Crusader rise is going to obviously, but I'm going to leave this Crusader thing for the last because, guys, this one's going to be a big one. But I want to get back to the Trump thing. So, yeah, Trump, there's going to be quite a few assassination attempts in his failures, and it's probably going to be a veteran or active duty military guy on losses of probably linked to the Venezuelan or Iranian war. Uh, People have had enough, right? People have had enough, and people dying senselessly for basically neocons that's the end of it, right? I'm not calling for violence. I'm just saying it's here. If you're an intelligence officer watching this, just keep everything I say as a running log, and then just watch for it. You're going to see it. The timeline I don't have, but no, the next attempt on Trump, they're going to take him out, and then I guess JD Vance will be the guy in charge. He's not going to last long. He's probably going to be overwhelmed and step down. And then that's the end of conservatism in the United States forever. That's it. You're going to swing hard communist left. I guess it would be this way. They're going to be so far left in the government, you're going to have to feed them with a slingshot. So you're talking full out censorship, full out, communist, and basically people in the States, like that are going on about how the UK has no freedom of speech and Canada has no freedom of speech, and they're throwing people in jail for hate speech stuff. Well, that's going to become a thing in the United States. It's going to be basically anti-Jewish, Jewish groups. Basically, if you criticize Israel, you go to jail. All that's being in the works right now. These new laws and stuff like that. All that's going all through the United States right now. So by year's end, you're going to see people acting on it and are getting arrested, deplatformed, whatever, which is going to reinvigorate a really interesting Renaissance type trend amongst all this chaos. Just so you know, all the chaos we're going to get in 2026 is everything from the past 10 years in the first 2 months. Remember, 2025, we started off with an alien invasion, a nuclear, nuclear missiles, ICBMs or regional RBMs, hitting Ukraine, right? Like, it was pretty crazy first 2 months. You guys even remember it? Like, it was like, wow, like there was hot air balloons getting knocked out of the sky and UFOs. It was great. It was fantastic. No murder hornets though, but everything else was fantastic. I mean, are you not entertained? But yeah, you're going to see Muslim uprisings against Jews everywhere you go, which is really going to piss off the Anglo-American empire, the old stock. You're going to see, obviously, remigration now, protests everywhere. People have had enough of India. Again, if you're Indian, I'm sorry, but people have had enough. Those tensions are going to boil over. You're going to see clashes in the streets. But what you are going to see, they've been talking about this since 2009, and I think this is the year it's going to happen, unfortunately. But in the front of Big Ben in the UK, I think this is the year where you see the beheading of the 3 little girls. Little red-haired, green-eyed girls, blue-eyed, blonde-haired girls, going to be beheaded by a Muslim radical right in front of Big Ben. And that's going to spark the Crusader War. And you will see basically the rise of basically a new Templar order, which is going to basically start brutalizing. Think of them kind of like 90s skinheads, where like the protesters that are protesting remigration, these are the people that still believe in rule of law and think but you're going to get people that no longer believe that. They're going to go more extreme. I talked about it in the 10th Crusade that your new Crusaders are not going to look like Knights Templar or the Hospitallers. They're going to look like soccer hooligans. They're going to look like calming working men, whatever. But you are going to see street lamp hangings and stuff like that in the UK. It's going to be very, very, very bizarre. It's going to be very, very violent. And you're not going to get an overthrow of Starmer, but you're going to get the man's not going to be able to leave his house. I'm not threatening the man. I'm just saying this is what he's going to breed, right? And Starmer's going to crack down like full Stalin-esque, in retaliation of this, to the point where the internet kill switch will be silently activated. So in other words, the internet ID, they're going to try to roll it out that if you want to go on social media, you have to have an internet ID. They're going to try to roll it out, but it's not going to work. No one's going to take it. So what they're going to do is just shadow ban to the extreme, where people are like, well, there's no point going on the internet. Anyway, I'm going to go out in the street. And what's going to happen is your radical leftist woman, your radical right-wing guy are going to meet, and they're going to become centrist again, which means you're actually going to see an uptick in dating. Yeah, it's going to be bizarre, but it's going to be like real life dates. No more Tinder. No more Plenty of Fish or whatever. People are just fuck that. I'm going out in the real world. You're going to see a rejection of like the Andrew Tate kind of, if you want to call it toxic masculinity, like the bro culture that is like hyper masculine but kind of gay. It's like where it's just like women suck, so basically I'm just going to be like this super hyper. But these guys are going like, no, I want my wife, I want my whatever, and there's going to be women begging for right wing men or traditionalist style men, modern era traditionalism, meaning boy meets girl stuff. You're going to just see like a romanticy of that throughout the culture, whether they're in protests, whether they're in whatever. And you're really going to see an alienation of left-wing people to very devastating degrees. Look, every year I call it, and I'm going to call it again this year, the suicide rates go up every year to astronomical numbers. We're at all-time highs. But we're going to see a real spike in female suicides in 2026 on the left wing. The thing about this is the social gatherings are going to be very 90s-esque, like us Gen Xers had. So you're either in the moderate centrist group. No one's going to want to talk politics. No one's going to want to, it's basically... think of like the Roaring 20s, where things were getting bad. People knew things were getting bad, so they just went out and did the jitterbug, danced, and whatever, partied it up. Well, you're going to see that. It's a small renaissance, but it's going to have a very ethnos to it of... and it's not just going to be white people. It's going to be a little bit of everything. Like people are going to start to get the... birds of a feather kind of thing. And obviously the left is going to, the media is going to be against this. Everybody's a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. And all that rhetoric is just, people are just going to tune it out. They're just going to tune it out. Left-wing rhetoric, people are going to tune it out. So attempts on Trump, there'll probably be several, but one of them is going to be successful. It will have to do with not so much the Palestine stuff, but Venezuela, if we go full tilt into Venezuela. The Venezuelans, what's going to cause the invasion is going to be an overcalculation from Trump. And it's going to have to do probably most likely with these freighters, right? What's going to happen is the Venezuelans, within the next 5 freighters to be seized by the United States, right, which they're doing it with impunity, right? They're going to start, Venezuela's going to start arming the freighters with either mercenary forces, which are probably like a U.S. helicopter coming in to do the, shimmy down the rope onto the deck. Guys are going to come out with either rocket launchers or whatever and start just shooting rounds at these guys, kill these guys, shoot down the helicopter. And then, of course, the U.S. warship is going to sink and create an ecological disaster of, blowing the shitballs out of an oil freighter with like 2 million gallons of oil in it, right? So you're going to see that in the Gulf of Mexico, a big oil disaster. It's going to make the Exxon Valdez look like a, like a little stain in the rug. You know what I mean? It's going to be bad. People are going to freak out on that. But obviously, the U.S. military is going to have retaliatory strikes, which will force cruise missiles onto these freighters, and you're going to see the Russians basically, and probably the Venezuelans and the Iranians start to basically, well, everybody's going to do this. Basically, the warships are going to be basically, you're going to see like, Venezuelan corvettes escorting their oil freighters and stuff to international waters, right? Stuff like that. There's going to be demands for basically the arrest of Trump for crimes against humanity on the high seas, stuff like that, and all this other stuff. You're going to see a double down of the Israeli war. They're going to kill more Gazans and stuff like that. And you're going to see an Arab flip out on, basically Libya, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and a few others are going to basically band together in the Iranian retaliation from another Israeli, when the Israelis and the Americans go in. The Iranians are going to start to hit U.S. bases and killing soldiers there with these hypersonic rockets that they have. And we're going to find out that we haven't even scratched the surface of what stockpiles the Iranians have, right? We're probably going to see this by the end of, early 2026, probably by May. Starting maybe between February and May, you're going to see a new war probably in Venezuela and Iran. That said, I already started making this prediction, and it already came true. It's not waiting till 2026. It's already happening now. But my prediction that I made on the first round of the video was that the Epstein file thing is not going away. It's not going to go away. And guys, I've been suspecting for a long time now, and I know a lot of people that love Trump, they don't want to believe it. I'm like, there's only really a few reasons why he'd be, he campaigned on it, and then all of a sudden he's just like, oh, it's a nothing burger, it's not real, whatever. But yet they have all this data on it, right? Well, they fucked up. And I said something like this was going to happen. Either it was going to be done intentionally, or it was going to be a screw up. And so far they're saying it was a screw up. But basically, when they put the file out redacted, they forgot to delete the underlining text, right? So people got the redacted files, and bye-bye. It's like, okay, here's the file downloaded without the redaction. So it's pretty much like I said. The only reason why Trump would be protecting these pedophile rings, saying that, oh, well, they're just fake news, whatever, but he campaigned on getting to the bottom of it. And now you've got Dan Bongino and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's quit. Dan Bongino's sitting there, and you've got Kash Patel. These guys are shitting bricks because they know they've now held back critical information, right? And that is, it does look like Trump may have raped the girl again. Take it with a grain of salt. It could be another smear campaign, but the girl ended up dead, and her death, they said there was no way it was a suicide. So Trump is probably, again, look, Ivana Trump, his first wife, was riding around with Ghislaine Maxwell, basically poaching young girls, and that for their modeling agency and stuff like that. A lot of these girls probably ended up on that list, on these Epstein lists. So Trump saying, I barely knew the guy. I mean, there's so much video footage of him. And it's just so obvious at this point. The photos, how many times did he cross paths with this guy? These photos are like, okay, photos of like people that are like buddy, not photos of, oh, hey, here's my formal handshake. You know what I mean? Trump is in it more than, unfortunately, than we like. Now, it doesn't mean he did it, but it's looking really bad. And it's not going away. And either the person that let out these files did it, said they did it on accident. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, no, they're going to keep burying this thing, so I got to let them, if we can't get justice, people at least have to know. Well, you're going to see the same thing on the JFK files. There's going to be an accidental release of full without redaction. And then you're going to see another accidental release on 9/11. And everybody's going to know the Jews did it. The other countries, Saudi Arabia and whatever we already know about. But they're going to basically, it was really the Jewish groups, which, again, is going to create more, the 110th explanation of the Jews. You're going to see anybody that's pro-Zionist or Jewish not getting elected to governments of office, bureaucrats, stuff like that. You're going to see like people boycotting. They'll vote the other way anything but. So anybody pro-Zionist is not probably ever going to get elected again, or very few. And this is going to start in 2026. Now, there's so much for me to cover here, but I only got a limited amount of time that I could spend down here today, because it is Christmas. So I just came down here to kind of drop off my chocolates. Flying squirrel up home so they don't steal it from me, and I gotta make sure that Marvin doesn't steal my chocolates from me. But yeah, so there's going to be like a dying of the internet, of people just like not using the internet because like it's just too much of a pain in the ass. And you're going to see a resurgence to like books, uh, board games, stuff like that. Pop culture. The Renaissance play that where people are going from city to city, Stratford Festival style. You're going to see like that kind of stuff. People really getting into that just to get away from the toxicity of the news cycle and stuff like that. And it's going to improve a lot of people. So you're going to see like almost like a breakaway nation stuff that I've been talking about since 2015 really starting to take hold, where at first it's just like pop culture music festivals and plays and stuff like that, where it's low tech, it works in the community, you don't need you don't need the internet, you don't need hydro, people just show up and have a good time. And you're going to see a lot of people wanting to do that. But that's also going to create the birds of a feather and people nationalizing on identity. The balkanization, if you want to call it, globally, you're going to see that. It will be what it will be. There's going to be good in it. There's going to be bad, but you are going to see like parallel society stuff. There will be crackdowns on it, but the government won't be able to do much about it because they're going to be too preoccupied going after people for hate speech. They're going to be preoccupied, trying to thwart, basically Muslim attacks, Jewish, black, false flags. It's all going to be there, right? And again, guys, look, every prediction year, I'm about 85% to 90% right. This year, I'm gonna like last year. I think I got almost every bad thing I predicted right. The biggest one being the Trump betraying his base. Well, that's just going to keep continuing. But you're going to see people like basically like the return to the land stuff, but they're now going to start coming up with more advanced ways than just farming and stuff like that. Like they're going to start issuing their own currencies and stuff like that, and basically have isolationism within, nation within a nation kind of, like, hey, if we want to survive this chaos, because the only way out is through, is we have to basically build stuff. And that's going to form the true backbone of, like, MAGA's going to die. Like, MAGA's done. Because nobody's going to be able to support it. So, look, the Ron Paul revolution, okay, of libertarians turned into the alt-right. The alt-right splintered into 50 million different fractions, and then the dominant of the alt-right turned into MAGA. MAGA is now failed. There will be an America First, but it's going to be a nationalist, old stock American. You'll see the same thing up here in Canada, old stock Canadians. For Britain, it'll be old stock Britons first, right? It's going to be like the defense, like like we had in the early 2010s with the defense leagues, like the English defense league and stuff. It's going to be like a rehatching of that, but with an economic plan. And it won't. They won't be able to spearhead it with your like Tommy Robertson types. The death of the shill. One thing that 2026 will bring in is the death of the shill, in a metaphorical speaking, where anybody that's like, oh yeah, we support this, we support that, like how like the conservatives were like, oh well, we're just against illegal immigration, right? With all these problems of legal immigration, which are even a bigger problem than the illegals, believe it or not. Right? People aren't going to fall for that anymore. Okay, well, we just got to, but we support Israel. Like you're not going to see that anymore. It's like, okay, we're against, pretty much like all anybody can be MAGA. It's not going to be like, it's like, no, there's going to be criteria. You want to be a part of this group, you got to be this. So balkanization is the best way to explain it. And this will be everywhere in the States. This will be everywhere in Canada. This will be everywhere across Europe and UK. France is going to have the beginnings of French Revolution 3.0. Everybody knows about the first French Revolution, big one, but there's basically been two, but we're going to get the third one, and this one is going to be very Crusader oriented. Um, it will be the one. France will be the place to basically uh, head the new Templar order that's coming. Okay, but it's going to take years. Like, look, every crusade we've had, some of them came in right like overnight. Some of them took 10 years. Some of them took 100 years to get going. This one seems to be about the 10-year line for this crusade, which is the 10th crusade we're in, which also corresponds with the 110th expulsion of the Jews, right? And again, you call me all kinds of names if you want. I'm just saying my observations are telling me this. It's not about who I like or who I don't like, who I want to do what. It's not how it works. How it works is 2 plus 2 equals 4 every time. It doesn't matter what your partisanship is. Here's what's coming at you. Look at the big picture, connect the dots. On the second Templar order is going to be coming from Germany. The third from the UK, even though it might more spark off in the UK and Ireland first, but it's going to be a Templar order mainly run by these two because they're going to have the biggest ousting. And Germany, it's either going to happen in 2026 or 2027, but basically the war between Germany and Turkey will start to lay the ground with real conflict, which will also grab Greece and Spain in solidarity with Germany against Turkey. Turkey's about to get like its ass handed to it from all sides, from the Kurds in Iraq to the Iranians, holding them off, in Armenia and Azerbaijan stuff, as well as the Russians between Turkey and Russia. You're going to see a lot of escalation there. That's going to be the main hot pot for NATO, and Russia will be Turkey. Turkey's going to overreact on a lot of things, but you will see the beginning wars footing for Turkey and Germany, which I've been calling for years. It's, again, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you the timeline. I just tell you the footing's there. But where does the Templar order start? I'll finish the video up here just so it's not too long. Guys, I'll do this as my main 2026 predictions. But there's like I've probably got about 10 hours or 20 hours worth of predictions to give to you. I'll just feed it to you over the year. And one of the predictions is the same as last year. The news cycle, if you thought it would make your head spin the past 2 years, 2026 is going to be even crazier. As fast, like you won't be, there's going to be no like first to report on guys at all. It's just going to be like, okay, it's already around the world. You know what I mean? But while you're reporting on that story, another story's coming in. And it's just going to be that kind of chaos. You will not be able to follow it all. I couldn't follow it all. So I didn't even bother trying to stress out of being the first guy to report on it. And almost everything that gets reported on right away will be incorrect. It takes about a week to 3 weeks to bear out the bullshit, right? But you're going to find people being more due diligence of not just believing they're hyper-partisan. People are going to be basically, okay, yes, I don't trust the other guy, but I don't trust my own guy to tell me the truth, even if he's a guy that doesn't lie. It's going to be like, he might have bad information to get go. The conspiracy theory people are going to be more like conspiracy fact people, no more of just okay, it was just the Mossad did it, It's going to be more of, okay, we need to go super sleuth here. But they're going to be less distracted because of the other things that are going to be hitting them in the real world, such as the food shortages globally. It's going to be scary. Even up here in Canada, we're going to get hit in some stuff too, just from the fallout from the United States. But we're going to be okay mostly because we've taken a different track, and Canadians do tend to think ahead on stuff, maybe just out of the paranoia of not trusting our governments as much. And a lot of people, will beg to differ on that. But no, you're about to see Canadian nationalism go through. It's already through the roof. with elbows up. And I know it's cringe, I get that. But elbows up turns to make belief up. And if you understand the World War One reference of that, that is the most patriotic Canadian, probably most deadly Canadian you ever have fucking walking the earth. You really don't want to mess with those people. Which brings me to my last two predictions. These are the ones that no one's going to like. I get it. But guys, everything this year coming will be bad if you don't, like, again, you're going to see deaths of despair through the roof. People losing their jobs, automatically go out and buy, drown themselves in alcohol and weed and stuff like that. But you're going to see people rising above that, saying like, okay, I lost my job. I'm living in a tent. I can barely feed myself, but I'm not going to go do drugs. I'm not going to drink whatever. And you're going to see like communes. Again, the return to family, nation, future, the return of the concept of the extended family, which doesn't just mean your immediate bloodline family. It means community. So you're going to see communes in these breakaway things where it's like, okay, well, I can't afford rent. You can't afford rent, but we could all live up here in this shack or in this farmhouse and whatever. And while we're all here, there's going to be no drug addicts. There's going to be no whatever. It's going to be like Amish with technology is the best way I could. So that's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a hard thing. It's going to be everywhere. Again, government's going to try to crack down on it using regulations and whatever. Oh, you have too many people living here. But it's, like there's going to be a lot of back and forth on that. It's not going to work because, again, the systems are failing. But it will create a new solidarity, including in the schools. And now in the schools, I'll leave this, like the woke thing is still going to be dying, but they're going to double down on it everywhere to the point where it's going to be really obvious to those who, have the eyes to see, regardless of the age. The kids are going to be much smarter than us generations, and they're going to be, teaching us a lot in the next couple of years, starting from this year on with Gen Alpha. Like I said, Gen Alphas and Gen Beta are going to be the ones to save the world, but in a very heavy-handed Stalin-esque kind of way. Not necessarily communism, but kind of the Crusader will rise and chivalry will become a thing. But chivalry doesn't mean it's nice. It means, end them rightly if they fuck with you, And that's what's going to be completely Lord of the Flies ingrained into our children in 2026 through the realities of dealing with polarized groups, white kids against Muslim hordes or whatever, Jewish hordes or whatever. Like the white boy. It's going to be white boy year for sure. It's already started where white people are like, okay, yeah, no, we have been, the facts are in now. We have been targeted by not being hired and stuff like that. So it's just going to create any illusion of progressivism is just going to kind of go the way of the dodo, particularly for white straight males. There'll be no more compromising or whatever. It's like, no, you're either with us or you're against us. Fuck you. The Templar Order is rising. Now, before all that happens, there's one more thing that has to happen, and this will probably come in near the end of 2026, maybe early 2027. But Donald Trump is going to attack Canada. He's going to attack Greenland in a way. There will be an incident there. It might not be full-out military, but it will be thing. The places to watch are the Northwest Passage and around the Great Lakes. Now, it could happen other areas, but these are the biggest indicators that I have of where the first American excursions into Canada, militarily-wise, are going to be, which will lead to a conflict with probably Canadian or American soldiers getting killed, which will put Canada on extreme hyper alert. Like you're going to see like basically an extreme hyper nationalism in Canada, which is going to force Carney to basically balkanize or build up our military extremely fast, meaning a lot of stopgap. Never mind F-35s. Trump is probably going to cancel NORAD, Kuzma, just before it. And when he does, he's already talking about getting rid of Kuzma, which is designed to destroy the Canadian economy, but it's going to have a devastating effect in the States because, like I say, that 2% trade that everybody thinks is just a rounding error in the United States, they're finding out, like, okay, of that 2%, how much is the potash in that trade? It's very, very little. And how much is the potash going to affect the Americans? Well, 90% of your crops are going to be affected by that 2%. This is what I've been talking about. The hydro, like Americans don't buy like trinkets and stuff like that as much. Everything they buy from us is critical infrastructure stuff. That 2% accounts for like 20 to 30%, maybe even 40% of the U.S. economy to function. Trump's going to overplay that hand by getting rid of Kuzma. It's going to jam up the system so that we won't be able to do trade on either side of the border because we just won't be able to get it there. It's like, well, we can't, we don't know what to, what are the rules? We're not going to know. So the gas and the oil, the electricity might stop from the American side because they can't import it. Not because we can't export it to them, but it's just like, well, the deal's over. Like, what do we do? You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? No one's not going to know what to do. It's going to be extremely chaotic for both countries. But that's going to start the nationalist rise in Canada. And then when Trump makes a go and tries to push the arbitrary line that he calls our border, who campaigned on strict borders, but somehow our borders, it's just on U.S. territory, right? Well, you're gonna see a massive uptick in military presence in Canada. Recruitment's already on the way up in Canada. It's still on the way down in the States, but you're probably going to see a massive hyper up, gain in personnel in Canada. Just in defense, getting ready you're going to see Canadian soldiers starting to fortify the country in anticipation of a U.S. invasion. You're going to see barbed wire, kind of like the same way you see through Russia and whatever. Trump is going to make a grab for the Great Lakes, territory around the Great Lakes, which you'll probably won't be tanks right away, but it'll be like APCs or whatever coming in. Might be tanks coming in on Canadian territory. Say, well, what are you going to do about it? And there's going to be a clash between Canadian and American. Trump's gamble is the same with the tariff thing, that Canada will just fold automatically. When Canadians and Americans say we're different, most Canadians don't know why they're different. They don't, because they chalk it up to like hockey and Tim Hortons and pop culture stuff. They don't understand our ethos at its fundamental. Even Black Pigeon Speaks, as smart as that guy is, does not understand Canadians and Americans are different. And it's not just a smug thing, well, we're not American. It's not that. It's nothing to do with that. That's just partisanship. What it has to do with is how we govern ourselves. You have to extract the majority of immigrants out because they don't have this ethos in either country. They're of their old world, right? So it's not a jab at them. It just is what it is. But one of the things about Canadians is like the American is a hyper individualist, right? Their main ethos, and even Black Pigeon Speaks figured this out and summed it up eloquently. The Americans run by freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, right? Very individualistic. The rugged individual, blah, blah, blah. Canada runs by freedom and liberty and good governance, right? Order, collectivism, and not like socialism, but tribalism. And yes, tribalism is going to grow everywhere. But when we see the Americans make excursions in the Arctic, an incident with Greenland, attacking Venezuela, attacking Iran, flip-flopping with Ukraine, and with all the crazy rhetoric, probably a complete seizure of the Panama Canal, which the Americans pretty much have seized it back. The Monroe Doctrine 2.0 is going to scare the shit out of us Canadians. And we're going to realize that the Americans are hostile to us. The good news is most Americans will not be on board with this. Yes, there's that 2% that want to annex Canada. Yes, they're retards. They can go fuck off and die. That 18% or so that say, hey, we'd love to have you if you guys want it. That's going to be like, no. We Canada is a sovereign nation. It'll be more like 80 to 90% of Americans will be completely against any sort of invasion of Canada. But they're going to be against all the war. So, like I say, the anti-war protests are going to just be on everything. So the Free Palestine leftists are going to be out there. going after neocons, which are mostly Jews, and evangelicals. Evangelicals are going to jump ship and either become Catholics, um, or Protestants or something else, or who knows what they're going to become. But the support for Israel is going to, like, if it's not dead already, like the two most hated countries in the world in 2026 are going to be Israel and the United States, right? It's just because Israel runs the United States, and there's going to be no illusions about that in 2026. Oh, that's just a trope. Yeah, but it's also true, right? Again, good. You can call me anti-Semite, you can call me this, call me that, but can you prove me wrong? No, you can't. It's impossible. You can gaslight, but it's still it's overwhelmingly obvious. So yeah, that's going to be really bad. It'll be short-lived because it's going to be a sobering moment for both countries. That when Canadians, the betrayal of like the Americans to the Canadians that's going to last for like 100 years. You're going to see Canada completely start to basically isolate itself from the United States. Again, this is why I said when Carney got in that he might accidentally make us a superpower. Not because I like the guy, but these things will step into play. And when they do, we're the ones making the resource deals, not the Americans right now. We're the ones that are getting the world sympathy of the trusted partner. Our reputation is rising globally. The Americans are falling, right? Yeah. So Carney, he's outplayed Trump pretty much on every step, with the exception of a few on Trump so far. It's going to double down, triple down, quadruple down in 2026. And there's going to, even amongst conservatives in Canada, they're going to be like, yeah, Carney's our guy. I don't like him. I disagree with this, but he's not going to get us killed. Americans are going to be like, Joe Biden was horrible, and it would have been horrible under Kamala Harris, but Trump was going to get us fucking killed. He's going to get us nuked. He's going to get us whatever. There will be no nukes, I don't think, anywhere, but there's going to be a lot of rhetoric of, about to launch incidents, nuclear incidents in 2026. It's going to scare the shit out of everybody on the planet. But this is also going to bring back like 1980 style anti-nuclear war protests, which is greatly needed. The big Jewish money around the world is going to basically almost get shunned as well in this, where it's like, okay, yeah, these are the big donors, but no, we don't want you tied to our campaign. Because as soon as people make the connection of a candidate and Jewish money, that candidate loses. This is going to be globally. It's going to be globally, right? It's a part of the 110th expulsion of the Jews. They can't see it coming because the hubris and all that. But from the outside looking in, you can see it. Which brings me to the last event, something I've been talking about, guys. Back in 2015, I said, look. Even though it always becomes a chicken versus the egg argument. When does a lake become a pond, or a pond become a lake? Whatever. Where does this incident really truly? Where did World War I really start? Where did, you know what I mean? Was World War II just a continuation of World War I? You know how these arguments go. But I said that if we wanted to put the benchmark of the 10th Crusade, okay, it really, some could argue it starts in 1991 with the overthrow of Iraq, right? I like to say the results of the 2000, like everything we're living right now is just the death rolls of the 2008 collapse. And I said there would be no economic collapse until war comes. Which war? Total war. Not just Russia, China, whatever, but everything. And I'll be commenting on the China's thing in other videos because there's just too far to go, too much to cover. Again, it'd be a 10-hour video if I cover everything in one shot, right? But what I'm going to say is that what I've called since 2010 was that there would be no economic collapse. I agreed with Gregory Mannarino that they were just going to pull out things to kick the can down the road, and you just gradually become more poor. Well, now it's becoming very evident that we're that slow bleed out is getting to the point where people notice, right? Housing prices, food prices, cost of living, this, that, just everything is more expensive, right? We have literally lost about, from 2008 to 2020, we lost half of our purchasing power pretty much globally in every Western country. From 2020 to now, we've lost our purchasing power again. And to the point, and this is a very big prediction, gold by the end of 2026 is going to be between $5,400 and $8,500. Yes. Remember a couple of months ago I said, what does a $4,000 gold look like? What does that world look like? Now we know. What is it going to look like at $5,400? And we're probably going to see silver go between $400 to $1,600 by the end of the year. Absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. And it's going to happen fast. It's going to happen on the collapse, the death of the American farmer. The farmers, they're metaphorically and physically going to die because of what Trump has done, attacking the food supply. It's like irreversible at this point. I just can't find any good news whatsoever. Even on the partisan channels, I can't find good news about the farming in the States at all. And this is going to have global effects just on that. And that's just America. You know what I mean? How bad are we up here in Canada? It seemed like our farming is like, it's rough, but it's, it's holding on. But I mean, that could change in one season, right? So we'll see. But the last one is the schools. And I'll end it here because if not, I'm gonna, I'm already at an hour and a half. But the last one is the schools. You're going to see the Crusader uprising in the schools. So I've called it like this: the silent generation, aka the Great Generation, the World War I, World War II generations. Okay, they basically were the strong men during hard times. From 1929, stock market crash on. These people grew up with nothing. They went and fought a brutal war, which got rid of most of the best of our young men. I mean, these were boys fighting. These weren't men fighting. These were teenagers fighting, right? On behalf of oligarchs and banksters and stuff like that of their time, which is the same, again, war's a racket thing. That's why you're going to see such anti-war protests globally, is because people finally get it. War's a racket. Yes, you need to defend your country, but all these wars are just like, Donald Trump has made it clear as day that we're just going to war because we want to steal your stuff, right? Not because of democracy, the women and children, blah, 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 and whatever. We're stealing your freighters of oil, we're stealing this. And of course, there's a tit for tat on that. The Iranians are stealing oil freighters there as well. The Houthi, the Houthi ship wars are going to continue again like they were in 2025. Again, what a crazy year 2025 was. But were you not entertained? But we're going to go to the schools now. So woke is going to be doubled down in the schools as woke 2.0, right? But like I say, the silent generation, they fought in trenches, okay? Then you had the baby boomers that came out of that, which inherited all the manufacturing from World War I, World War II, particularly World War II, and they turned it into the automotive, suburban sprawl 1950s model, which gave wealth to the baby boomers never before seen in human history. And they gave rise to us Gen Xers, which basically were now the decline of having less wealth than the previous generation, less kids, less everything. Basically, the baby boomers usher in from the extended family of the silent generation down to the nuclear family, fewer kids, right? The deterioration was already started, but the banking Ponzi scheme peaked and they made that wealth, and it dies out till we get to about the 1980s, 1990s, and it really starts dying out. So Gen X, the baby boomers, will not save the world. Created a lot of wonderful things, a lot of wonderful technology. And the boomers more gave rise to the millennials than Gen X did. Boomers had more kids than Gen X. Most Gen X millennials their parents are boomers, right? Now, the millennials 1.0 were a lot more sheltered and whatever, and they still retained pretty much the same what Gen X had and whatever. So they didn't lose much, but they got about the same, if not anything. They leapfrogged a bit over us Gen Xers and maybe even gotten a bit more than us in some ways. Um, again, we're Gen X. We're considered the forgotten generation, right? We're like the North Korean War. We're just forgot about. Um, then the tail end, which Generation Y, which is the tail end millennials, or the millennials, they start to get the bubble wrap put on pretty thick, and they're the ones to experience in around 2005 is where I kind of ballpark it. The the first wave, third wave feminism and stuff like that, and all this hyper radical stuff. And then, of course, from them, we go to Gen Z. Gen Z is the first not forgotten generation, but just completely deprived generation. These are the ones that have nothing to hand down to their kids. Hence why the birth rates are so low, don't worry about the birth rates. They're going to pick up as the mass exodus of migration leaves Western countries just through the rise of nationalism and balkanization. But they are at peak woke. They are at peak demoralization. They are the most deracinated population ever, right? In the modern world, which Gen Alpha, okay, is sort of 50-50 split on woke and traditionalism right now as we speak. But mainly it's girls have gone extremely left, boys are going right wing. But the thing is you're going to see the rise of the Crusader because Gen Alpha is going to become a more racially aware than any other generation, more tribally aware, whatever, until we get to Gen Beta. So Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, when they start hitting their Crusader phase, you're going to see probably about just before the summer break. I've called this Lord of the Flies scenario back 2015, where that the younger generations were only teaching them comply or die. Partisan authoritarianism, where you either comply with the LGBTQ, XYZ trans stuff and woke, or you're ostracized, you're the outgroup, you're the bad guy, whatever. There's no compromise, right? And this is what the children have grown up with. Hence why, modernity has just affected, particularly young women, the worst with progressivism, right? But there's one part, like the way that whole victim oppressor mentality, oppression Olympics, wokeism, one thing it has done is it's picked its own tyrant, which is straight white males, right? And this is coming to head in legal challenges now and everything like that. And the thing is that young white boys are hated by every group, right? And overall, so they're told they're evil. They have no history. The migrant groups are beating them up because they can't walk around as individuals anymore because they get beat up. Whatever. Their own girls hate them. Hence the incel revolution stuff. But that's not going to stay for long, because the thing is that these guys are going to start to clash with the teachers big time, to the point where you're going to see teacher suicides go up just because they can't get through to these young boys that just are going to completely decimate them mentally. Just as in Lord of the Flies kind of Crusader, like they're going to stand up to these teachers. You're going to see like 8-year-old boys telling their teachers, "You're wrong. You're going to hell," because the Templar Order is rising, and we're going to burn you as a witch at the stake. And you're going to see that. It's going to be bizarre to see young boys turn into men at 8 years old. The rise of the strongmen. Strongmen make good times. Good times makes weak men. Weak men make hard times. Hard times then in turn make the strong men. So Gen A and Gen Alpha and Gen Beta are the beginnings of the new Crusader. Um, Basically, you're going to see the second returning of the Leper King. You know, you're going to see Baldwin, the fourth, fifth, whatever, rise again in these young boys, and he's going to inspire men, boys around the world in the true Crusader fight of the 10th Crusade. And it starts with them. You don't see this play out for another 20 years fully, but it will be. These will be the cut of the cloth cut of the young boys. Now these are the men that save the West. They're going to do it by brutality, barbarism and brutality, because the world is going back to barbarism and brutality. Why? Because us men before these young men have failed them. We're still way too comfortable. Gen X didn't save the system. We became apathetic to it and nihilistic to it. The boomers got too comfortable. They didn't stand. You know, they just went along with whatever the mainstream media said. And I'm not calling boomers stupid, but they don't understand the technology. They're going to go to their graves believing that you could just still pull yourself up from the bootstraps, and that everybody's just John Lennon's Imagine and Martin Luther King's We All Bleed Red, right? They're not going to understand, you know, why these young lads are nationalistic and tribalistic and on racial lines and cultural lines and whatever. Which you're going to see some brothers' war skirmishes in Europe over this, but not to the degree like we saw for the past say 1,500 years. You know, like 500 years ago we get into the Enlightenment, but 1,000 years before that is just basically European brothers' wars. The end of European brothers' wars ends in the Ukraine, that's the good thing. And the Ukrainians are going to be our beacon, shiny hope. Again, they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. That's the indicators. Poland will be the vanguard that backs they're going to be the gateway to save Europe from the Russians. But backing the rabbit out of the hat Ukrainian, like we're not going to believe again, they're not going to get all the Ukraine back, but they're gonna stop Russia in their tracks. I don't know how they do it. They're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it, and it won't because of the shit they're getting from the West. It's because they're going to nationalize and realize that their biggest enemy is the Jewish regime, Zelensky regime, Zionist regime within, and whatever. So they're going to find a way to make Russia bleed enough that the Russians are actually going to put, like they're not going to double down. The population is going to lose all stomach for it and say, we have to fucking negotiate a peace treaty now. Both sides of the population are going to demand this, and hopefully it ends in 2026, but I don't think it's going to end until about 2028, 2029, maybe 2027 at the earliest. But, something really drastic has to happen. But the vanguard of Europe will be held at Poland and Finland and places like that. And of course, the vanguard of North America will be upheld by Canada and the Nordic regimes. The United States is just going to have too much. The Monroe Doctrine 2.0 is going to fall flat on its face. And like I say, I don't think Trump is going to live to the end of the year. His own side's going to take him out. For whatever reason. Maybe it's over the Epstein thing, most likely over the Venezuelan thing, whatever. But these young crusaders will not tolerate Muslim gangs. You're going to see, and you're already starting to see it, but you're going to see white boys roaming in packs. This is going to scare the shit out of the left, because everywhere, and this is also why the left wing, you're going to see them committing suicides. They're really going to believe that they're going to be taken over by fascism and Nazis and whatever. Now, there's some truth to this. The libertarian order is dead. Capitalism order is dead. Communism doesn't work. But the world in the West is going to be divided into a fascist dictatorship or a communist dictatorship, all based upon some sort of nationalism. But the communism we're going under like another 80 to 100 years of that in pockets. But the nationalist one is going to be probably the dominant around the world with whatever country they're in, a defense league like Canada First, America First, but not, okay, America First, but run by Zionist Jews from Israel. Or evangelicals that are completely sympathetic to the chosen people. That's a done order. The Israelis are going to lose big time. They're going to like lose thousands and thousands of Israelis in the next. And they're going to start it, but they're going to lose heavily. Iran's going to probably fight a 24-day war, which will almost wipe out the entirety of Israel. The Americans will not be able to do anything about it because they're going to be so busy just trying to defend their air bases from the Iranians, that basically American bases are going to leave the Middle East. Well, they're not going to leave. They're going to get destroyed. Americans in the tens of thousands are going to be killed by the Iranians when the Iranians, even nuking them, Iran will be probably 2027, 2028. It's going to have no effect. Like the Iranians are going to, like, don't matter how many times you nuke them. Every time you nuke them, they're just going to wipe Israel off the map. Again, it is what it is. If you're Jewish, it's time. If you're Jewish or a migrant, like I said back in 2015, you better have a suitcase under your bed because you reap what you sow. Chickens are coming home to roost. The backlash is coming. It's going to be a crusader backlash from the youth up. It's not going to be harpooned by grifters like TPUSA and stuff like that. Like when Charlie Kirk died, okay, and I said a month before, I said, look, you're going to see left-wing attacks on, like places like TPUSA. 1 month later, I didn't say Charlie Kirk was going to get killed, but I said, this is how close I've got to the prediction. It was just like, yeah, you're going to see this. You're going to see this again. The grifter is going the way of the dodo. So there's no more Ben Shapiro's. There's no more, let's just be libertarians like Joe Rogan. Yeah, they'll still be popular, whatever. They'll have no influence. If you're not folk first, nation first, family nation future, people are just not going to listen to you. White boys are not going to listen to anybody other than people calling for the return of their own people and the defense of their own people. Because now there's just it's complete mask off. There's no illusion that white people aren't being attacked by Jewish groups and feminist groups and this group and that group. If you're a white guy, you didn't get hired since 2014 because of DEI practices, right? And now it's showing. Now that the documentation is in. So there's going to be backlash to that. But the young lads are going to be the ones rising up as the crusaders. And they are going to push. One of the exodus of immigrant groups is going to be these crusader boys, where it's like, okay, the teachers don't suspend these Africans and stuff like that because it's considered racist. The judges don't throw these third worlders in jail for raping women and stuff like that. They give them lighter sentences or whatever, but they crack down on people with hate speech. Like you're about to see some people go to jail for like anti-Semitism laws for like 150 years. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be that kind of ridiculousness, right? That's what brings out the crusader sword. Now the thing is these young lads, they're going to be brutal to everybody. They're going to be brutal to boomers that are left. They're going to be brutal to us Gen Xers. They're going to be brutal to the millennials. They're going to be brutal to Gen Z. They are going to be fucking brutal. Comply or die. Why? Because that's what we taught them. You kick a dog enough, you make a cross, and it'll eventually bite people. Don't be surprised. Usually they bite their master, right? So that's what these boys are going to turn into. However, they are going to probably, because there's a demand that you're going to see amongst particularly white women. It's already started. It's not going to be the trad wife thing. That was just the 1.0 and it failed because it was like all these independently wealthy trad women, whatever. But you're going to see women move to nationalism. Okay, it's like, okay, well, look, I still have to work a job. My husband's not, or boyfriend, husband to be, is not going to be able to sustain, me and my children or our children. We're both going to have to work, but we're going to do it. We're going to have children. right? And we're going to have right-wing children, right-wing, right-hand path, and probably a super hyper rise in Catholicism take over. Paganism is going to rise along with it in the West as well. But basically, we're going to have religious groundings. Where the Brothers' War comes in is this pagan versus Christian bullshit that's been going on for like 10,000, 2,000 years, right? But it's not going to be like it was 1,500 years ago. The Vikings aren't going to kill the Christians aren't going to kill the Vikings, right? It's like, okay, we're going to have fierce debates on the internet, but we both agree Muslims are going home, Hindus are going home. Like that's what you're going to see. You're going to see it all over the internet. You're seeing it already. It's going to rise. But all these, like, you're going to see, like, when the Muslim gangs and the Hindu gangs and the African gangs are picking on little Whitey, and this is what you're going to see in France and Germany, where you're going to see a white boy getting kicked the shit out of, like normally happens, or in Sweden. And then all of a sudden, like, here's 20 fucking Viking Swedish flip outs beating the shit out of every Muslim in the school, every black kid in the school. Again, I'm not saying that I want to see this, but what I said, this is what you would see after 2020 is the comply or die. You're going to see kids killing other kids because Mrs. Such and Such teacher said, you put on the mask or you're the bad guy. And they're going to push that kid off the pier and kill him because comply or die. That's what Lord of the Flies is. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. You're going to see, okay, well, the 10th Crusader generations clashing. The Muslim kids are going to get their asses kicked when the white boys are moving together as a unit, as not Knights Templar, but the Hospitallers. The highest order of Templar there was. This is the hardcore, as I called it. You've got your libertarians on as a spear. I called this back in 2015. You have the spear. This is your civic nationalism. Then you get to the furrow, which is nationalism. Then you get to the edges of the spear, which are the ultra nationalists. And at the very tip of the spear is the hyper nationalist. Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. Brutality. Barbarism is going to be the new way of the world. Trump is already showing us that. Look, Trump was supposed to be the good guy. I get it. If I was an American, I would have taken the chance and voted for him too, because Kamala Harris at the time seemed like there's no way she could do worse. And at this point, Kamala Harris would have been the better choice. And that's how bad the poor Americans have it. Again, that's not a raining of doors for Kamala Harris. I'm just saying Trump ripped the Band-Aid off, right? Again, you're going to see a South American nationalism because there's going to be a whole bunch of strife between the Mexican-U.S. border through migration, stuff like that, the trade problems. You're going to see American excursions into South America, particularly Venezuela, but basically doing airstrikes possibly in Mexico. Say, well, it's cartels, right? And it might very well be cartels, but the Mexicans aren't going to tolerate this. So you're going to see a unifying of South America against the United States as well. We'll see what happens with Argentina. But because no one's going to tolerate, like the South Americans are going to unify around Venezuela, even if they don't particularly like Venezuela or Maduro or whatever. It's not about that. It's that you're attacking this country for no fucking reason other than to steal their resources. Which is going to make the radical left basically, colonialism bad, whatever. But again, the polarization, this is the year for it. But these young lads, they're going to balkanize with the understanding that, you're either with us or you're against us, whether you're teachers, whether you're white women. We are not going to pander to your leftist ideology. We're not going to pander to your anti-whiteism. We're not going to pander to we're not going to take a knee when, immigrant groups attack us, blacks attacking us, whatever. Yeah, like the black fatigue is going to hit a new level of violence, not before seen, and again, by year's end. There's only you're going to see, like the blacks killing all these white women on the trains all throughout, and it's going to double down, right? Which is going to lead to that retaliation of segregation. Again, it's going to be a very dark year. Again, the Black Christmas, it's already started. All this bad shit that's already happened before Christmas, and again, the disbanding of NORAD, possibly Canada getting kicked out of NATO, which I'm all for getting out of NATO, but put that into our own military. But you're going to see, like I said, a lot of military developments in Canada that's going to scare the shit out of the Americans as well, such as our over-the-horizon radar systems. If they work half as good as advertised, no submarine will be safe, right? But yes, you're going to see a very, very nationalistic Canada, which is also going to trigger the, they must go back. They got to go back, right? Basically the disbanding of the foreign worker is starting to take place. It's going to take place whether the governments want to do that or not. If they don't want chaos, we're there, guys. Like, I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying this is what's going to happen. So we'll see how my predictions fare out. There's so much more I got to talk about. But watch the school kids. Watch the white boys. Watch how they're going to react to when one of theirs get beat up. They're no longer going to be these atomized individuals. Individualism is going to die in base of tribalism. It's that or die. Right? It's tribalism or die. This is the year. And what you're going to see is, like, again, when the black kids and the minority kids, unfortunately, are going to get beat up in retaliation. Like again, it's going to be berserker rage. The Swedish flip out still might not happen yet, but you're going to see it in Ireland. You're going to see Ireland is still going to be the canary in the coal mine. Maybe that's where the first Crusaders are going to rise in the schools. But you're going to see, again, it will be based on violence from these, like these Muslim groups in Germany, whatever. Suddenly you're going to see all these German boys beat the shit out of everybody in the school that's not white, because a backlash to, a kid getting killed by a bunch of Muslim migrants in the schools, just getting beat up for simply being white, right? This has already started in 2025, where people realize that, it's not just random violence of individuals. These are targeted attacks. Hence why you're going to see more targeted attacks against specific Jewish groups, such as the Zionists, backing groups, which like the Chabad Lubavitch, the Ashkenazis they're not Zionists, but whatever. You're going to see all these groups getting attacked for what they are. You know what I mean? And it's going to be bizarre. Sure, it's going to be very violent. Keep your head on a swivel. I'll just end on this. That wherever you are, whoever you are, I don't care if you're a migrant or an immigrant, keep a suitcase under your bed. I've been saying this since 2015. Nobody believed me, but we are in the beginning throes of the 10th Crusade. You are safer if you have a get-out plan. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not saying you have to leave, but I'm saying when these migrant parents start to demand that their kids, like the blood libel because my kid got beat up in school by a bunch of white boys. Well, the anti-white rhetoric is not going to. It's again, that cross dog is now starting to bite people. You're just going to see parents saying, "Well, yeah, your kids were going around in gangs beating up our kids. Get the fuck out." That's what you're going to see. People aren't going to be shamed in, "Oh, well, you're a racist bigot." That dies. That's why you're going to see such suicides on the left, because they're really going to be terrified that the propaganda that they've been fed, that there's Nazis everywhere and every white person's bad and evil. Well, they're going to start to see the fight back because of all the evil they've done over the years of deracinating and beating down and allowing white people to get murdered by minorities and getting lighted sentences. Like, it's just all going to come to a head. And you can just call me whatever, far right conspiracy theorist or whatever. No, I'm just a man passing through time. 2 + 2 always equals 4. 85% of this year is going to be very high on my success rate, probably about 92%. 2025 wasn't 100% accurate on all my, again, the biggest accuracy, because everything hinged on Trump's betrayal of his own base, right? Like I say, the death of MAGA takes place and splinters into hyper-nationalism this time around. Instead of civic nationalism and stuff like that. I mean, they tried their best with their Ben Shapiro's and their, what do you call it, Joe Rogan types and stuff like that to harpoon it and your Andrew Tates and stuff like that. But it doesn't work anymore. No, it's blood and soil. We're into the blood and soil mode of this crusade, which that is what really kicks it off. So hopefully it won't be too violent, but there's going to be a lot of death related to this crusade. It's not going to look like Richard the Lionheart, right? But it might look like Baldwin the Fourth or Fifth or whatever. And again, we're not going to have like your regular shock troop Knights Templar. You're just going to have the Hospitallers who will defend. And again, the white girls are going to be jumping on board with why? Because women are women go where the trend is. They don't women. If you're female, you can call them misogynist or whatever, but typically women follow the trend. Women don't start the trends. They grift onto the trends they're allowed to have. Third wave feminism was fed to them. Fourth wave feminism is the death of women. And it was basically, my best guess is just from the abyss of nihilism doubling down and cultural Marxism, how would it lead there anyway. I think what it really was, third wave feminism was basically just a population control, the same way like the MGTOW. Like MGTOW, there's no future for MGTOW, there's no future for incels. You either become a nationalist, family nation future, or you die. That's I'm not calling for your death. I'm saying that's you're like these young nationalist men are not going to tolerate your Andrew Tate's degeneracy. They're not going to tolerate feminism. They're not going to tolerate this stuff. You will see it, and this is going to, again, teachers are going to be so depressed on this that they're going to be basically mocked and ostracized, made fun of by all these little boys in school, and they're not going to be able to handle it because their progressive ideology is going to die, and they're really truly going to be freaking out, suspending these kids, but they're not going to back down. They're just going to stand their ground. Their parents are going to, these kids are going to tell their parents to go take a fucking hike because it's like, no, you don't know what's going on in the world. You're stupid. They're attacking us. They're genociding us. I'm not fucking brainwashed from the internet. I'm living it. These Muslim groups are attacking us. These African groups are attacking us in the fucking schools. They've killed my friend. They pushed him off a pier. They killed him because he was white. I was on the train and I saw a black man stab another white woman to death because she was white, or light her on fire. They are seeing it. And look, nature always provides. Nature doesn't like a vacuum, and nature always gives you reality, and reality, you either accept it or you double down in insanity or whatever. So, Irina Zaruska, however you say her name, her death is not going to be in vain. She woke up so many white people, particularly a lot of white women. It's going to take like a year and a half before it dawns on people. But you're already getting women saying, where are the strong masculine men to come and save us? From these migrant hordes. And again, it all comes into the language. Like what you were hearing in 2015 at the beginning of the crusade. All these girls in Germany and France and the UK and everywhere in Canada, refugees welcome, big signs, happy signs, big smiling faces. You don't see that anymore, do you? I mean, there's still the out there, oh, well, we support it, but they don't go out in the street and do it because they might get attacked by a migrant while they're doing this, right? This is the thing, and it's all fake news. The body count don't lie. Like people, yeah. Look, you're going to see some guy, probably a black guy, attack a white woman on a train, a bus, wherever, in public, attempt to murder her, and there's going to be like 10 white guys just fucking jump on him and kill him right on the spot. You're going to see this all over the place. You're already starting to see it a bit, but you're going to see people that, because rule of law is no more, like, yes, if you steal a chocolate bar or you beat up your wife or steal a car, you're going to go to jail for that. Embezzle billions, start wars all over the place, nothing, right? But that's why you're going to get that's why you've had the past 4 years a real rise in vigilante justice. Most of it has been coming from the left, killing right-wingers and stuff like that. That's still going to be a thing. It's going to be more dominant on the left than the right, but there's a blurred line between who the bad guy is, right? The left no longer supports Israel. You know what I mean? Like, they fucked themselves over with the Gaza thing, right? So the left sees Israelis and Jews basically as Nazis, right? So, and there's no way they can get that back. So the left, yeah, they're going to be the ones predominantly killing the Jews. Again, they're just getting the Israelis are just going to get eaten by their own monster that they created, right? It's bizarre, but it is what it is, right? But yeah, there's going to be a lot of chaos. This is the year. Look, I couldn't even get the prediction out before stuff started happening, right? So the Black Christmas, like I say, the big one. The first real big hit that I'm worried about is, and it's why I keep screaming about the food supply. Guys, if you want to, I don't care if you're black, you're white, or whatever. I don't hate anybody, and I don't believe me, don't believe me, whatever. But whatever, it's like I understand, but I have to tell the truth. I have to look at the big picture, connect the dots, tell you where it's going to lead. Could I be wrong? I pray everything I said in this video pretty much is wrong. Not everything, but most of it. But what I'm telling you is that I'm most of the time not wrong, because I don't operate on the partisan channel. Yes, I am a right-leaning person. I am a conservative person. Not a neocon, support Israel, kill everybody on behalf of Israel person. I am not a socially, fiscally conservative, socially liberal 90s person anymore, because I see reality for what it is. We are in the kill or be killed barbarism world. It's coming back. It's everywhere. It's going to be in the Anglo-American Empire, the Eurasian Pacific Empire, everywhere you look. South America, North America, Africa, you name it, it's kill or be killed. We are going back to barbarism. It's just the barbarism is, instead of a feudal system, per se, it's going to be a fascist system or a communist system. Pick your poison. This is the next 100 years. This is where we're at. It is what it is. It just is what it is. But the thing is it will also be globalist versus nationalist. For example, Stalinist communist nationalism versus, say, Marxist nationalism, or Marxist communism, right? Or progressive communism, which is globalist, right? So, it'll be nationalist fascist or nationalist socialism. You're going to see a rise in that. You're going to see nationalist capitalism. It's again a new category, sure. Free market capitalism, die. Free trade, going to die. Fair market systems will be the only way forward in supply chain 2.0, which I'll talk about in other videos. But anyway, this is what we're at. This is where we're at. This is what's already starting. How long does it play out? Well, throughout the year, a lot of it in the beginning, but a lot of it is going to be kicked off with the food crisis. Starting in the United States. It's going to scare the shit out of the world. Farmers are already crying, committing suicide, begging for mercy. The betrayal of Trump on behalf of Wall Street is going to lead to pitchfork revolutions and murder in the streets. Again, $5,400 to $8,500 gold. What does that look like? Ouch! Oh my God! We went from $3,000 to $4,500 in under 6 months, guys. And just when Trump took office, how sane the world was, as crazy as the world was, how sane it was then to what it is right now. This, again, you can only sit back and laugh at the madness, chaos of it all. The only way out is through. You just have to survive it for you and your family. Best way, prep. I don't care who you are. I don't hate people. Sure, I believe everybody has a right to be. I'm a, nationalism for all type of person. I believe you can have some immigration if it's sensible, but mass migration, that's going to die. It has to die, because if not, we all get killed in the crusade. It's just, we have to right this ship. If we don't, we have to get rid of mass migration, leftism, which will solve a lot of problems right there. But yes, you are going to see white women begging to come back to the nationalist side. But the taintedness of modernity will sting hard for these women. The Sex and the City types, feminist types, progressive types, they're going to die lonely. They're going to die lonely. Why? Because the vetting on the right-wing side is going to be Puritanism. You're about to see a lot of warrior monks, Templar monks. Men will choose to be celibate rather than be with a whore wife. That's whatever. And they're not going to be going on endless dates. Dating is going to uptick, but they're not going to be going on endless dates. They're going to be like, we're dating for 3 dates, then we're going to start to plan our future together. And the women, well, I'm not ready. Well, take a fucking hike. And again, women will comply to that. And you're not going to see like 1950s or before type of relationships between men and women. You're going to see, okay, we have to, the folk first, tribe survives. We have to work as a partnership. The two-step of man and woman. Maybe this is what it took to get us there. Those who make it through, yes, the birth rates are going to be down for a little while, but within 10 years, the white birth rate is going to skyrocket just out of nationalism. It'll be like the left don't have kids, right? So that has to burn itself out. The toxicity has to burn itself out. Just hopefully it can do it peacefully. But while everything is in collapse mode and survival of the fittest in a barbaric world, good luck with that. Good luck with that. But anyway, yeah, so that's my... I can't wait till New Year's Eve to give you New Year's Day to give you the predictions. The stuff's happening too fast already. Be safe, guys. Put food away. You need at least 2 years worth of food for every person in your family, including yourself. Start there. I know it's a lot to ask of people, but do that. Stock up on Tylenol, medicines, whatever you need, rubbing alcohol, stuff like that, because you got to think we might be living in a grid down situation, or you're locked out of the internet from hate speech laws anyway. I don't know what else to say. Again, I'll cover more as I can, but these are the preliminary 2026 predictions. And East Coast Canadian, no, we're not doing like we did last year where I did my predictions, and then you had to come up with the idea of, hey, let's come up with 10, each come up with 10 even more ridiculous predictions and see how many of them come. And almost like, you picked 10 and I picked 10 and like 8 of them came out on each side. No, we're not doing that again. They just made the world worse. We're not doing that again. Yeah, so, but anyway, to everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, good fucking luck to you. Just sit back and laugh at the chaos of it all. I feel bad of all the people that are not going to make it. I mean, consider that 1 in 4 people is suffering from some sort of mental health issue or whatever. And probably out of every 10 of those people, about 8 of them are not going to make it to the end of 2026. It's going to be grim. It's going to be very grim. And they're all going to die by their own hand, just out of the depravity. So drugs, alcohol, marijuana, all shit like that. If you don't need it, don't take it. Clean your mind. Get right with God, even if you're an atheist. Atheist is the worst religion ever. It just tears you down. And yes, it is a religion. You don't understand it. I understand it just fine. People are religious. They're deeply religious. It's just, what religion do they drift onto? That's the only question. It's in our nature. And nature always wins. So, pick a good one. Pick a right-hand path. Be courteous to others. Expand your extended family. Move closer to them. You don't have to all live in the same house together. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to be closer to your family, your friends, your connections. Build those communities now. It's a lot easier together. Individualism is dying. Individualism is death. Progressivism is death. If it's not right-hand path, and if you don't understand left-hand path, first of all, you can be a liberal and still be right-hand path. You can be a conservative and still be left-hand path. It's a lifestyle choices. And that's about all I'm going to leave on this one, because there's just so much I got to say, but I got to get back to the family and stuff like that, and got to do a few more things down here before I go up there, and then so Merry Christmas and good luck. Stay sane if you can.